Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He's Gordon. Actually, Gordon's adjusting his camera, so let me make sure. Yes, that is in fact Gordon. Good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Last talked to you yesterday. For those who didn't listen to the podcast yesterday, because you might miss a podcast, we're now only doing 3 days a week instead of 5. We'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Moving forward, reason why our boy Lincoln isn't with us anymore. He didn't die. He just has decided to
Correct.
go on to greener pastures, working with his wife's art company or art business, or just her because she's the artist, helping her sell the art. So no more Lincoln on the pod, which is unfortunate because he was a highlight of my day whenever I get to do a podcast with him. So if you want to listen to the previous pod, we do a couple memories with him. And just want to tell people if they didn't listen to yesterday's pod.
So. Sure. Yeah. Well, the other reason we're moving to 3 days a week is because it's going to be slow for the next couple months. So there's a possibility, though, we'll pick it back up to its normally scheduled 5 days a week once track really gets going. But you and I talked. We think we can pace it out to where with 3 days a week, we can hit everything that we need to hit, especially right now in the slow times. And then even when races start coming back, we can always recap stuff on Monday and then Friday preview what's going to happen. And then that gives us flexibility during the middle of the week to discuss any news. So I think we'll be able to capture it all with 3 days a week. Now that I think back on it, 5 days a week for a running podcast when most of the sport was canceled was just a really bold plan on our part.
Yeah. I mean, it took us to do 220 episodes for us to realize, hey, maybe we can take a day off. Especially when there is a pandemic going on and there's no one running. So, I mean, the fact that we're able to do 220 straight podcasts and not have any dead air, I think that's pretty good. I don't know. That should be our one.
No, it was good. And if I went back and looked at it, I'd probably only say there was only 10, 15 episodes where we really had to stretch and we didn't have a guest and we didn't have anything to talk about. I always love Gordon Lincoln in episodes, but when you guys were ranking the all-time NAU top 7, I thought, maybe we're a little light on stuff. It was good. I don't know if it didn't need to be an hour. Maybe could have been 10 minutes, could have been 15 minutes there. But there really weren't as many of those as I thought, because in between, as you mentioned, the news of someone joining Bowerman Track Club or somebody getting a whereabouts violation or somebody breaking a world record somewhere throughout the world, there always seemed to be at least something to keep it going. And when 2021 really gets rolling with these races, that'll be more the case. But that'll just allow us to trim down a little bit. Lean and mean, right? That's the mantra here for this year.
Yeah, and I was last night looking into the future indoor schedule. And we keep an internal document of all the meets happening around the country, at least the big meets where we could see fast times collegiately or professionally. And I'm starting to fill it out, and it looks like there's a good set of 6 to 8 meets every weekend, starting not this weekend but next weekend, which is good. I mean, basically the big players like Clemson, Virginia Tech, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, they're all having multiple meets. So there is going to be a schedule, at least in the Power 5 world. The question is, how will the D3 schools find a place to run? The lower tier D1 schools find a place to run? That's going to be the question, because if you're basically a Big 12 school, SEC, ACC, you're good, or Big 10 even, you're fine. The question is, how are those non-schools going to be able to get into races? Even a school like NAU, I keep on refreshing their meet schedule, and they haven't updated yet. I probably could just text the coach and ask, but I remember talking to Mike Smith back in the fall, and he was like, I don't know what we're doing for indoor, because NAU's indoor track they don't have this year, because it's going to be the football field. So because Big Sky football is happening during indoor this time. So they are trying to figure out what they're going to do. But I'm going to be fascinated to see where the non-Power 5 schools get meets in, because there's going to be no BU. I don't think there's going to be any UW meets. It's going to be an interesting thing to find. And then also we still have cross country, right? Cross country ain't over.
Yeah.
Cross country is going to come back later on in end of February and then early March. So
And what about the
an
pros?
exciting time. And the pros, yeah. I mean, there's the World Indoor Tour. I know Milrose is out. New Balance Indoor Grand Prix is still on, but I feel like that might get knocked out. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. Here's a question. We'll probably end up talking about this. Do you think USA Indoors will happen?
I don't have any knowledge on this, so do not put any weight into what I'm saying. I don't think it will happen, but that's just a guess. They don't even have a site listed, correct? And that was pre-pandemic.
Correct.
They didn't have a site listed. It's not as if a site was already named and then they said, well, I don't know, we don't want to do it because of the pandemic. I just don't think they ever had a site for this meet. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I don't think they have one. They didn't have it. I mean, they always kind of only get a site every 2 years, right? They like announce every 2 years, hey, they're hosting it for the next 2 years, and they haven't done it now because they're like, hey, we don't need to worry about it. But with no World Indoors, I think USATF is going to use it as a way to be like, hey, let's not figure out COVID protocols and this, that, the other thing. Let's just put all of our time and energy into figuring out how to get people in and out of the new Eugene Stadium. So is that what we're going to call it now? The Eugene Stadium instead of Hayward Field? Because it's not Hayward Field anymore. The Eugene
Call it
Stadium.
Hayward Stadium. You call it Hayward Stadium,
Hayward
I think.
Stadium.
It's not Hayward Field.
Okay.
Do you think if you were behind the decisions here and you had your hands on the budget and you had X amount of dollars to spend, would you spend that on hosting an indoor meet, or would you spend it on sponsoring an outdoor meet somewhere in a warm weather spot where you could have distance runners, sprinters, field eventers all congregate and get some good marks early season and maybe knock out some qualifiers for the distance runners and field event athletes, and for the sprinters get a good race in, before the Diamond League?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what the money would be more well spent being put towards outdoor meets, because we always make this joke between you, me, and a few of our other colleagues. There's no indoor Olympics, right? And now there's even no indoor worlds. So
right.
We shouldn't be spending time finding ways to get athletes a new weight throw PR or a new 60 hurdle PR. We should be spending that time to give these athletes an opportunity to get outdoor PRs, outdoor personal bests, to be able to get ready for the Olympics. Because, indoors is a luxury. And in times like this, you need to cut the luxuries and put more time and energy on something that matters, which is getting the athletes ready for a good outdoor season, which I think will happen because we're seeing it happen in all the other sports. Football was able to do 256 games in the 17-week span. We got to be able to put on a track meet. So, and I just think indoor because the lack of participation, and I think we will still see some people who would want to do it, and you will hear a loud minority just maybe scream like, where are I going doing indoors? But the majority only care about Olympics. And I think as long as you're able, I think they need to cancel indoors, but at the same time announce what they're doing extra for outdoor, to be able to let people understand, hey, we're taking all of our time and energy that we would have put on indoors, taking it, like you said, to an outdoor meet, maybe create two to three, specialized meets to help these people find opportunities, so
people just want to race.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to race because they want to get marks in and they want to get sharp for the season, but they also want to race if they're a professional, for monetary reasons. But I've never come across anybody in track and field who was just so dead set on indoors. Like, I wake up every morning and indoors is my motivation and I can't wait for indoor season. That's my jam. That I circle those months on the calendar. That's where I peak for. I don't think that person necessarily exists. There's people who are better at indoors or have been more successful at indoors, but it's always been second fiddle to the outdoor season. And I think this year just exaggerates that gap between those two seasons. And if you're looking at from the NCAA perspective, between the 3 seasons, because if given the choice, a distance runner has to choose between cross country and indoors, I think most times they're going to choose to compete with their team in cross country.
Why do we even have indoors? Like, why is that a sport?
Cold weather, man. We've talked about this. Your neck of the woods up there. Your neck of the woods. You know where there is no indoor track? Warm weather places.
But why do we need our sport to be 12 months of the year or 11 months of the year? Like, it's cold it's cold in the Northeast. Yeah, we don't have football games in March, because of that. Like, there's no baseball in February because it's cold. Like, why is our sport not comfortable with having like a true off season? Like, why do we need an indoor and an outdoor? Why don't we just have an outdoor? I don't.
I think it's just tradition.
Whose idea was
it's just tradition?
Tradition,
yeah. It's just the Melrose games have happened. They're going to keep happening, right? That's just how it's going to be. Even though they've had to change venues, the meets in BU are going to happen. They're going to keep happening. It builds on itself, and because so much of running and so much of track and field is dressed up time trials and dressed up practice, you can have those things, and they don't take away from the bigger picture, the bigger prize at the end. And I think of it, if you think of this from a money perspective, right? It's like the major sports, right? They're the rock band, they're the musical acts that can sell out Madison Square Garden or the Rose Bowl, right? They can make they can make those main appearances in those big time spots and make enough money. Track and field athletes more like the band that goes small town to small town. They play college towns and they play gigs everywhere to try to cobble together enough income. So I think from a money perspective, if you just ran the big meets, right? From a money perspective, you probably wouldn't be doing as well as if you were competing frequently. So it's just an opportunity to get a couple $1,000s here, a couple $100 here, and then you've worked out a way to survive in the sport and thrive in the sport. So I think of it that way too.
The Eric Sawinski model, right? You just got to run as much as possible. Yeah, race and you make money.
Yeah. Which is obvious, but we don't really think about that as spectators. We don't think about the fact of like, hey, why did this guy just run 4 times in 6 days? Isn't that going to be shredding their hamstrings? Well, they're making a living doing it. That's how they're doing it.
Might get $1,000 a pop.
But you add those up, and that's how you survive and are able to continue in the sport, and then give yourself a chance to compete at the Olympics or the World Championships or the trials, whatever it may be. But I think that's part of it too. Track and field athletes, by and large, are more like a touring band than they are a headliner, and they need to continue those little meets so that way they have spots to go to. Not to say it makes sense from a fan's perspective, but that's how they stay relevant and continue to thrive or survive even.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it would be better if, you can't probably mess with like the NCAA world or the high school world, but like, I think World Athletics should kill World Indoors and create an outdoor calendar, like extend Diamond League through starting in January, and then, I go bigger, and I think you should place World. You should go to the four majors model, and you replace World Indoors with one of the majors, an outdoor major in a warm area town during that time of the year. Hey, do it in Tokyo and connect it to the Tokyo Marathon. That's what you do. You connect it to the pick 4 major marathons, put 4 major track meets. The marathon's on a Sunday. The track meet goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. people come in for the marathon. They watch the track meet while they're there. It's 4 days the same way. It's 4 days for a golfing match. Perfect. And then you have 4 championships. Yeah. But yeah, the fact that I just think about this. The fact that Usain Bolt, the most popular track and field athlete in the modern era, didn't give a lick about indoors is a sign.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What,
you could extend this to other.
Important, wouldn't he have showed up? And it's like, well, he didn't show up because he's not, it's not Jamaica. They don't need it. They're outdoors. It's exactly. He didn't show up because it didn't matter because he showed up for outdoors anyway. So
yeah, you could extend this, and it's less prominent because none of the big meets happen here, but there is a professional cross country circuit that happens, and it's usually confined to Europe. And then there's the World Championships, and I love the cross country, obviously, but it's not taken seriously at the highest level. World Cross Country Championships is really cool to watch, and it's a cool one-off. It's a cool one-off meet, but if it's once every 2 years that event is relevant, that discipline is relevant, it's hard to build on that, and it's hard to make the argument that you should pour more money into that at the expense of the main focus of the season. And I get the pushback because the idea is like, well, it's sort of like when you're taking away Diamond League disciplines. It's like, is that really going to help? Does getting rid of the discus or getting rid of the triple jump, getting rid of the steeple, does that really help? Is that really going to be the thing that turns track around? So whenever you take things away, people are going to get mad because then you're like, well, what are you replacing it with? So I get it. But from an outside perspective, from someone, if you don't follow the sport or if you're just looking at it with fresh eyes, as you mentioned, Usain Bolt never run indoors. Like, that's really hard for someone to get their mind around that. Same thing with weight. You have cross country, you have indoors, you have road, you have track, you have all these different things, but there's no real cohesive. Like, you could make talking about 4 majors, right? You could make a system where almost like the different surfaces in tennis, clay, grass, hard court, where there's a cross country championship, there's a road championship, and then there's a track championship, and then and you see the same people over and over again, and they're competing 3 different times. You can make some sort of coherent season or coherent year out of all these pieces, but right now it's all just pieces because that's how track is. It sort of is all broken off, and everybody's got their small little section.
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you look at golf and tennis, they have 4 majors. I'm not a fan of golf and tennis, but I'll watch the 4 majors. I know that golf and tennis have other events. They have like the ATP tour, and they have this little mini golf tour, and like these little mini invitationals that people in the golf community and the tennis community probably like will care about or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just for like, it's filler for the 4 main things that people are going to watch. And right now, track, we only have one main thing that people watch once every 4 years. So golf has 12 of these every 4 years, has 12 events every 4 years that people will watch just because it's interesting. Track has 1 every 4 years that people will watch. I mean, you could argue maybe people still watch Worlds, so they have 3 every 4 years. So golf and tennis have 12 major competitions every 4 years. Track has 3. And so we need to change that 3 to 12, and it's not by creating world relays and world half marathons and all this stuff. It's created by focusing the sport. But like you said, our sport's never going to be like that because we're kind of a gig economy type sport, which I like I mean, that's literally what people do. Even in the local road racing scene, there's people who are able to hunt $250 prize money here, there.
Yeah.
I think we need to find someone. There should be like a cool, we should create a documentary about someone who makes a living purely off of like local road race prize money and like how they like find the meets, how they get to the meets for cheap, and then how they're able to make a profit. That'll be kind of cool. Like how they're able to like, hey, I know I have like I have all these hotel points, so I can go places for free. I know what to say in order to get a free, air voucher and all that stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, this isn't the content meeting. You know that, right? You should pitch that later. The content.
I should.
A lot
Yeah,
of
we
people.
should pitch.
A lot of people are hearing this.
That.
Yeah. Don't take that idea. Yeah. Intrepid running journalists out there. Should we get to the topic of the day? Now we've had a nice little warm up here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the topic of the day? Oh, the news of the day. What about the news of the day? We didn't even talk about the news.
News of the day. Okay, we have one news item of the day, which, hey, I'm grateful for anything right now. But Ryan Hill, we talked about how he's leaving Bowerman Track Club at the end of 2020. Announced yesterday he signed with HOKA NAZ Elite in Flagstaff. He'll obviously be their main 5,000 meter runner. Made the World Championship team several times. Got silver World Indoors in 2016. I was a bit surprised that it was HOKA. Obviously, with all these things, you say, I'm surprised, but you don't know the terms of the deal. You don't know what the contract was like, what the old one, what the new one was like. But I thought with rumblings about a new group being formed in North Carolina and him being from North Carolina, I assumed that that's where the path will lead. But Gordon, he is going to go to Flagstaff, your second home.
Yeah, and if you kind of low key, I mean, he ran 7:38 this in 2020, which is pretty good. I mean, for a 3K, I mean his PR was 7:30, but 7:38 is not bad. I mean, and he ran a 13:15 5K. I don't know. Do you think he'll ever be in 13:0 shape and be a legitimate, contender to make a team in the next 3 trial type races? Like, this year and next year and next year after that.
I think he's got a chance. I think being on Bowerman, you get overshadowed a bit because you have Mohamed running in the 1240s. You have Lopez Lamong breaking 13 minutes. You have Matt Centrowitz doing what he does. And then you have all the women that are smashing records and making teams up and down the board. So now he's transitioning to where he's the main person in this group. I think it'll be interesting. And sometimes the coaching change late in the career is exactly what's needed. Sometimes it's not, and it doesn't work out. But sometimes when you're with somebody for so long under that same system, when you have a little bit of a tweak or a little bit of a change, you can see a little incremental improvement. And it's not like he needs to make a huge leap forward to get back there, right? We're talking about a matter of a few seconds here, a few seconds there versus, you're third and you're on the team, or you're eighth and you're nowhere to be seen in that last lap. So small changes can make a huge difference. So I kind of like, and I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I kind of like the late career, one last shot, let's kind of mix things up move.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be 31 at the end of the month. I mean, obviously we have seen people in their mid 30s, late 30s run well, but that is more on the rarer side. I mean, it's more an exception to the rule. I have like a system where I'm able to know that the prime of a typical athlete is age 22 to 26. And if you look at his career, when he, in 2015, which is 6 years ago, that's when he was at top of, 2016, I guess he was world indoor silver medalist. So 5 years ago, which would be 26, that's when he got second in the world in indoors. So, is he someone where once he got past age 26, that was basically the end of his prime, and now he's just trying to hold on to it because we just, the name, he's in Bowerman, and he's still able to run, times that are respectable, but, I don't know. You want to think he can do it, but, the odds are not in his favor based off of the way typically an athlete's life cycle goes is they have their peak at 22 to 26, and then it just goes downhill because age and, younger kids come up, and it's just hard to keep up with that speed. I don't see it. I just think US is too deep, but I would rather like to see Ryan Hill take a stab at like trying to run a 10K. You know, I mean, maybe he doesn't have that type of endurance, but
Maybe he will.
I don't know.
Maybe he will.
He,
I'm wondering what the adjustment is going to be like, because you go from a group where you have 1,500-meter runners and marathoners and everything in between. So it's got to be great from a training perspective. Whatever you need, you have someone to run with and push you in workouts, to a group where there isn't as much depth. I'm wondering how he responds to that. But you brought it up. He ran 13:15 last year.
Yeah.
In a 5,000. And it was just 2017 that he made a team. So many times some of these people come out of nowhere, that one last, oh man, I can't believe they snagged that final spot. And then you look back like, oh, they only missed one team. And for him,
yeah.
he only missed 2019. And before that, he made 17, 16, 15. So,
well, he didn't make 16.
He didn't make 16?
He made
I thought he made 16.
No, he made
My
indoor.
apologies.
No, 16 was
the World
Chalimo,
Indoor, right?
Yeah, Chalimo, Lamong,
Yeah.
and no, Chalimo, Lagat, and
Lagat, Hassan Mead.
Hassan
Mead got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chalimo beat Jenkins by a tenth of a second. Okay, sorry. So 15 though.
But he made 13. He made 13,
right.
15, 17. Yeah.
Right, which is really dang good. And then 16, I'll say 16 was a good year for him, obviously, because he gets the silver medal against Kajelka at World Indoors, and he gets sixth in the trials final. That was a kicker's race. Anything could have happened. So he had that great run there. Even if he doesn't do anything else, this is a great career because you're making 3 teams. But I mean, I don't want to close the door on a guy who's ran 13:15 in such a weird year as last year, and is now mixing things up and trying to find something new here for his last run at it. So I think he's got a chance. I would put him in the group. That 5,000, you're right, is tough. 10,000, we're saying not as tough. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little more open. I mean, it's still tough, don't get me wrong, but like, hey, maybe he goes out there and has like a Kiro D'Amato type performance in the 10K and it's like, whoa, all right, I found my new spot. Here's a question.
Well, maybe this group maybe is geared towards the longer stuff.
Yeah. I have a prediction. 2021 5K personal best. Tyler Day's time will be faster than Ryan Hill's. I think Tyler Day will be the fastest 5K runner on PB wise, season best wise at the end of 2021. I'm not saying Tyler will have a higher finish at the trials, but I think Tyler will have a faster time. That's my prediction.
Mm-hmm. Well, that helps Hill in terms of train. Like if Day gets better, that's better people to train with. I think that would help him. Listen, didn't Tyler Day cost you a bet a couple months back? Are we running that back again here? Yeah.
Ooh, he did. He screwed me over. I was so good at drafting up until Tyler Day, and then D'Amato's like, I have a stomach ache. Oh, it's the worst. Anyway, go back to the pod and listen to the draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to do well. I don't know. It's just like again, 31 is 31, and like 2017, like at the same time, is a long time ago. Like, what were you doing in 2017? You were living in California doing.
What was I doing in 2020? I don't know. But my point being, he's only been out of the mix for one year, and that was 2019, and he only really raced once that year. That was it. So 2019 was not a good year for him. I guess the question is, if we were evaluating this like any other sport, we would say, does this move give him a better chance to make a team? Or does this lessen his chances at making another team? That's how we would evaluate this. But I would love that. You think it gives him better chance?
Yes. Because there'll be more focus on him. Yeah, he won't. Okay. Yeah. He'll be able to, and I think Rosario will be more open to like letting him, because he's had 10 years of a certain type of training under his belt. I don't think Rosario is going to come in and be like, you're doing this, shut up and listen, do this, and then we'll see what happens. I think Ryan will be able to like have a little more veteran like say in the training. And I mean, Rosario has found a way to get the women that he's had on his team much faster track wise. I mean, yes, his specialty is longer distance running, but the improvement that like Kellen Taylor, Steph Bruce, and all these other athletes have shown by dropping Julie Mock, but like dropping their track PBs is a sign that's like it's not just about 26.2 for Ben. It's about, he's able to develop some speed. So, I mean, that's what's going to take for Ryan Hill. He needs to keep on having speed. Like, it's not going to be going out there doing crazy tempos all the time. It's going to be him trying to run some fast 400 repeats and 800 repeats and all that stuff. So I'm excited to see how he does. You don't know where his mindset is at. Also, you have to think about, like you said, if he just 2019, he was injured. So, and he's made 13, 15, 17.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't Jerry know if like he still has it? Like, wouldn't Jerry be like, hey, I know Ryan Hill is done with the contract, but like, you don't understand. Like, it's just a fluke that he missed 2019. He's going to be ready to go 2021. Like, I feel like he would still be at Bowerman if Jerry thought that he was top 3 material, right?
Yeah, but we don't really know why. I mean, there's just so many question marks. We don't really know why he left. Now, Jerry is famously forthcoming with all the information, so I'm sure if you call them up, he would just give you all of the download about what happened and his experience coaching Ryan and what he thinks about Ryan going forward. So I look forward to you filling us in later. But there's just so many question marks here. I think another thing that will be interesting to watch, they've obviously trained a lot at altitude, but now you're going to Flagstaff and you're living at altitude. How does he respond to that? Does that is he a super responder? Because there's something to be said for that side of it. And another thing, my last point on this, you brought up who it helps. I think it definitively helps someone like Tyler Day, who's still learning the ropes on the pro side of things. And I don't know how much they're going to train together or how that works out. But now you have a guy on your team who's made 3 teams, has world championship experience, and is in your event, in one of your events. Like, I think that's huge for Tyler Day and the other young people who join that team who are learning the ropes, because there's just a ton of knowledge that can be passed on from Hill's experiences, and not just his racing experiences, but just the day-to-day stuff that he does. I mean, think about all the people that have come through Bowerman when Ryan Hill's been there. Like the people he's seen train and the little bits and pieces of knowledge that he's picked up. And then now he can share that with the other guys on that group. I think that's invaluable for Tyler Day and the rest of that crew out there.
Yeah, you could argue that the signing of Ryan Hill pretty much means Tyler Day is going to finish 2 places better than what he would have done. Like, he's going to get bumped up 2 spots. I don't know where it was. We don't know where it was, but whatever he finishes at the trials in the 10 or the 5, know that if Ryan Hill wasn't there, he would have finished 2 places worse.
I like it. So you're basically calculating Ryan Hill's usage rate. Is that what you're doing here? Or
yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to
it's fun to speculate. It's fun to speculate and think about.
This is also the problem with having an entire year of no running or no like caring, like tried to run. I mean, we had running, but not like actual, like people could just wash it up like, oh, it's whatever. Is that like we don't know the status of these athletes as well as we normally would. Like, we don't know what that. Yeah, he ran 3:15, but what is that 3:15? Is that like I'm on the down trot 3:15, or I'm coming back up 3:15? Like, we have no idea. You can't really tell. So we're projecting all these thoughts. We need some data points. We need some new data points on these athletes for us to really have a understanding of the landscape of distance running in America, and meaning we're probably not going to know. I mean, it's just going to be, yeah, we're probably not going to know who's good until like June 1st when we had at least one data point from some of these athletes. So, but yeah, I think it's good.
That's
it's a
fair.
good move. It's just an interesting move. It's like you spend the entire life in Portland, and then all of a sudden you own a flag. And hey, I think it's, you know, I'm sure the contract is like a 1-year deal. Hey, let's see what happens. He goes out. What would he need to do in order for him to be like, yeah, I'm sticking with, you know, Flag and Ben and Hoka and all that stuff? Like, what place would he need to finish? Obviously, if he made a team, it's like, okay. But like, what non-making team finish would he need to have at the trials for him to be like trusting the process?
I think if he's just in the mix again, I don't even know if it's a place. If it's just like he's there with 800 to go or there with 400 to go. So, I mean, if he's able to run 13, 15 or faster, I think you got to say, all right, let's keep taking a crack at it. The main thing is it shows that he wants to keep competing, because if he didn't, it's an easy way to end your career. And you say, hey, I've made a bunch of teams. I really enjoyed the group. I'm going to move on to the next chapter. So the fact that he's going to a new group, I think, shows that he still has the willingness to do it. Yeah. And I think that's worth something, because you never know when opportunities are going to open up. You never know when you're going to have a great race at the perfect time, or when something happens to the three people in front of you. There's some issue that happens, and then you're there to take advantage of it. We've seen it time and time again, all the weird fluke things that happen in the sport. You brought up Simmons, and it's not a perfect analogy, because when Simmons was with Brooks, it was just 2 years before that he got World Championship silver. But I think a lot of times we forget how good Nick Simmons was in 2015. He didn't run at Worlds, but he made the team, remember? Because he was protesting the
15 or 17?
15.
Okay, 15.
But then, but then it dropped off dramatically. And like 15 was his last year where he was at that level. But 15, he was still pretty dang good. And then 2 years later, he had called it quits. But that was, I think at the time, people might have been saying, oh, okay, he's just going to do 1 more year or 2 more years with Brooks and then just cash it in. But 15, he was really dang good on limited races. He won USAs. I mean, if he ran at Worlds that year, he could have medaled. He definitely could have medaled that year at Worlds, and it didn't work out.
Pierre Boss year, right? Yeah, it was the Boss.
That was a Pierre
Frenchman
year.
year.
Yeah, exactly. And it was it would have set up perfectly for Simmons. So I hasten to make any strong predictions about what I know will happen in terms of how long his career will last, other than I think it's going to help the group as a whole, and it's going to at least bring some new ideas and new thoughts to him. Actually, 15 was Rudisha. Sorry, Boss was 17.
Okay,
but that was but this was, and not to say it would have been the same way with Simmons in the race, but that was a 145 race. That was a 145 race, and 146 got bronze. And again, if he was in the race, we'll never know how his presence would have impacted it. But in a championship race where it took 146 to medal, Nick Simmons, that's his jam. He could have done something with his tactical acumen. So I don't know. I just think it was interesting, and we'll obviously keep tabs on that and everything else. Gordon, we made it through the entire episode without talking about what we were supposed to talk about, which if you're watching the show, it says 10 races to be excited about in 2021. So congrats on that.
Hey, we need to extend it out. We don't have much to talk about, so we'll break down our top 10 races to get excited about in 2021 on Friday.
Yeah.
Email the pod if you have a suggestion of a race, and maybe we'll pick your race. We have our list, but maybe we need to amend it. We have 48 hours to amend the list. Email pod, FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. I'm Gordon. He's Lincoln. I called you Lincoln.
Ooh.
Oh man.
Oh,
I'm just so That's it.
I could be so
I
lucky.
already missed him already. He's Kevin, and yeah, talk to you guys in 2 days.